So before I open the floor for questions, can I please ask you to move to the report slide?
Yeah. This one?
No, next one.
Yeah.
Well, the previous one as well, yes.
Okay.
Where is this? Anyway, it was Ian Foster somewhere. Ian Foster, a friend.
This one.
Yeah, here we go. So Ian Foster, whose grandfather was the mayor of Christchurch on the drunk era. Things that we learn when we ask for non-traditional bio. Personal friend, Kiwi. So Rosa Badia will come one day. Now, could you please move to the IEEE? And of course, you can read all these names, but I can, because you can see, for example, Nicola Ferreira from Argonne. She is on my proposal for a workshop for agriculture empowered by supercomputing. Keely Chard is a Kiwi. He works in Argonne with Ian Foster. Geotica, I'm trying to convince her from Synopsys to come here. Paolo Faraboschi, who I just mentioned earlier from HP AI Lab, he's the director there. I want to keep going to another name here, which is Saurabh Singha. Is an Indian South African who happens to be the executive dean of the School of Engineering of the University of Canterbury, which is across the park. And that's one of my challenges, to bring that people into multicore world, because what I'm trying to show here is that we have the talent. The problem with New Zealand is that it's a numbers game. I mean, 5 million people, it's the entire country is less than Houston. I mean, these people is extremely talented, it's just busy. So I really asking for your help to keep bringing, I mean, you mentioned collaboration. I've been trying to do that for the last 15 years. It doesn't happen overnight. And when it happens is what they call an overnight success that takes 20 years in the making. So for example, Dejan, the chair, he has been threatening to come for how long? I don't know. On the other hand, and this is another in that topic, Alok, who is somewhere or not. I mean, Alok Chudari, the first speaker, is not. But he presented a slide about a book or something with him, and two presenters, Tony Hay, which maybe you heard about, used to be corporate VP at Microsoft and chief scientist of STFC at Heart3, Multicore World Keynote 2016. And the other was Jeffrey C. Fox, Multicore World Speaker 2015, 16, 17. He is now probably 80. But what a privilege has been to me to bring these people together. What a failure to me to being unable to make more critical mass locally. But it is what it is. End of the rant. Question from Jeff, question from next one.
So I'd like you to talk a minute or two about data and the gravity of data. And I think what you said is that there's another slide pretty close to this one where there's 5 areas for future study. And I think the upper right was data. Is this still... Yeah, real-time data integration. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, the effort here is to be able to move workloads around from one lab to another, but sometimes you have to move a big boatload of data along with. And, you know, is this a solved problem because networks now are so fast, or that we're able to, the data is so cheap that we can put multiple copies everywhere else? Or what, or is this something that's going to take some years to sort out?
It's going to take a few years. So, for example, the kind of work that we work a lot with Slack in California. So what they do is we do data compression on their side, and then also the edge processing there. So we can ship just the necessary data to train the models on Frontier, and then they do inference back on real time back to Slack. So we do that also with Greta, the Delaria project. There are a few others. If you look at what is happening on the, sorry, I know you have SK here, but the Chile one, I forgot the name. There's another telescope there. What they're doing is saying, well, not all data is going to get out of there because it's too expensive to move. So federated learning, it's getting traction because of this thing. So part of the data is going to stay in Chile, part of the data is going to Brazil, part of the data is going to the US, but then you have to do this federated learning to be able to only extract the necessary data. And all of these pictures I put here is beautiful if you look at that. But there is a component that I didn't touch, and it was, I think, on my first slide, is the privacy preserving. So we're going to get all the privacy issues around these things, that, oh, it's beautiful, we do federated, identity, we do federated policies. Well, it's not that simple. IRI, we have been around like 20-something years now, and we are still discussing the policies. We figure out the solution, the technical solution. We know how to do a bunch of the things, but as figuring out policies, ensure that protection is in place, and like if someone authenticates with NERSC credentials, OLCF is not going to say, I don't trust you. You have to authenticate with my credentials. It's the only way. Of course, there is all the token process, and we're going through this, but yeah, it's going to take a while,
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any other question? Goes at the back, Kevin.
Try to see. I get why everybody does that.
Great talk, Rafael.
Thank you.
You grabbed my attention at the beginning when he started.
Microphone closer, too.
You grabbed my attention at the beginning when he started talking about infrastructure. And I'm hoping this question is not too far off base for you. But one of the things I feel like we're missing at the large scale is sufficient large scale test beds. I know the ESNet, which is the backbone of IRI, they have an ESNet test bed, which they use rigorously to make sure their production infrastructure is good. Do most folks working with workflows need a test bed like IRI test bed that will not only have the networking component, but also the facilities and replication of their policies where they can go in and dig and tweak things? Or is it sufficient now, the access you have of having your own test bed at your site and then connecting to the production network?
So, yeah, I'm not going to use good question because I know the part of the answer, not entirely the answer. But so there are a few things here. For example, before I joined the lab, I spent a lot of time in the academia, and I was a great user. I'm still a user of Chameleon, it works nicely. Appreciate all the benchmarking studies. We did a lot of it on Chameleon, so thank you. We worked, with Fabric too. Ilya, that was the PI, now he moved to JLab, and he's helping actually build HPDF. He's the main data architect there. So the thing is, why we need, these test beds? Because the production systems are there, the policies are in place, and it's something that I learned very quickly at OLCF, because I was hired to come and say, hey, you're the workflow guy, let's do workflows here. I said, yeah, let's cite it, I'm gonna do all kinds of workflows. And I said, I want to do this. I said, no, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, because this is gonna breach security, and the network here, you cannot open this port, you cannot do this thing. I said, okay, and what I can actually do? So you're very limited to that scope. And the idea of building this testbed here, and this testbed is actually part of the ESNet testbed, so that's how we're going to connect to the Argon testbed that is being developed at LCF. And NERSC is also putting a testbed on that, is to say how we can explore new things, how we can, I need to try new opportunities. Like there are new kinds of workflows that today I can do on Frontier, but then I need to do a bunch of hacks like SSH tunnels, because I cannot get data in and out easily the way I would like. I cannot have a single science gateway in front of Frontier, and we don't know who are the users, so we don't have these robot certificates things. So there's a lot of things that we have to explore, and the testbeds allows us to do that. But even on the testbed, and another thing that I learned, I don't know if it's only DOE or if it's only OLCF, is there is an entire document that says, well, this testbed is hooked up in the same network as Frontier, even though Frontier is moderate and we are open, but it's the same network. So there's a lot of things that we still cannot do because it would just somehow infringe the policies. So yeah, I totally agree with you. We need more of them. The academic ones are great, especially because they are open and basically you can do a lot. Like, I really love what TAC does. I was using TAC a lot before, but when you get into a moderate world, and I cannot even imagine how Livermore or Leno is, that it's even more secure, but even more complex. But we need this kind of things because it's the only way that you can deploy something, and then you can get back to your management leadership and say, hey, if you want to be able to enable that, for example, this is what I said 3 weeks ago in a meeting with leadership. I said, if you want OLCF to be part of autonomous science, you need to have this kind of APIs available. You need to have, orchestration. You need to understand, be able to run these workflows. I hope I answered your question. Good.
Please join me in thanking Rafael for the very good presentation. Just give you.
Yeah.